I need to deal with my shit
Yeah.
or I start just blaming the alcohol and blaming the drugs.
Yeah.
Because I knew that these things were exacerbating whatever was going on, like a lot. But I've been 2 years sober and I still have not issues, but I still have up and down days with my anxiety. I still have up and days with my depression. I just know how to deal with it differently now.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know that I'm allowed to have bad days. I'm allowed to feel like shit.
Yeah.
I don't have to always have something, to make me feel good, if that makes sense.
100%. Boom. What's happening, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Real Drug Talk. Hey, so today's going to be cool because, again, another thing that we wanted to do was with this show was to kind of get everybody that's interested and involved in the alcohol and drug space, the mental health space, and sort of identify or uncover, not that we're really big enough to uncover anyone, but just have people on to talk about what they're doing, that are doing things that are new and interesting, because it's just my personal opinion that the mental health and drug and alcohol spaces can be a little bit tired and a little bit old, and it's in desperate need of like some cool new things to come in. So our guest today, Brooklyn Garrett, is in that space. So there you go. I'll put the pressure on you, mate. But I came across Brooklyn's Instagram the other week, just, having a look at some different stuff. And she popped up on a friend of mine's Instagram. And I had a look at her page and I'm like, this stuff looks really cool. Just even down to the name of your group, which is Fuck Stigma. Is that what your like kind of community group's called? Is that right?
Yeah. So the my Instagram's called The Anxiety Bender, and then my support group is called Fuck Stigmas.
That's right. So even just the name, I thought kind of like hit the vibe of the mind frame or the space that people are in when they're kind of looking for help or want support or whatever, rather than like future you program or, stuff like that. Just, anyway, sorry to anyone out there that's got that name, but, so that's kind of the reasoning. But then I dug a little deeper and I saw that you've obviously got involved in this space because of your own personal experiences and your own story and things like that. So, first of all, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. I've just started rambling.
That's okay.
And poor Brooklyn, we've been trying to tee this up for a while. I gave her a heart attack this morning and said that we were starting 2 hours before we were meant to start. So sorry about that, mate. But did you want to give us sort of the 3-minute snapshot of your story and why you're doing all the stuff that you're doing in the space now?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll try and summarize this in 3 minutes.
Pressure's on. It can't be a minute over.
Okay, so basically I am 28 tomorrow.
Oh, nice.
Happy birthday to me. I would say a functioning addict from like, I was using drugs and alcohol. Well, alcohol I was drinking from like 14.
Yeah.
I lived on the streets basically living on the streets. I was that kind of thing, drinking a cask of goon almost a night, that kind of thing. I started experimenting with drugs around the ages of like 16, 17. I remember doing speed and smoking pot and all that kind of thing. Then it kind of turned into my story is very up and down. Like I had phases where I would be, on the straight and narrow, like I was a personal trainer and
oh wow.
I would, go on sobriety journeys for like a month or 6 weeks or whatever. But I never could kind of keep that at an equilibrium. My nan passed away. She was like a mother to me. I kind of lived with her for a little bit. She took me in and when I was younger and tried to like basically put me on the straight and narrow, which she did. And I like thank her for so much because she kind of saved my life.
Yeah.
But I started partying and was using drugs, cocaine, MDMA, pills, all that kind of stuff. When she died, I don't think I ever really dealt with it properly. And I just went to a whole new level, whole new extreme.
Yep.
I was on medication for anxiety and depression, and went into a rehab facility down in Sydney, South Pacific.
Are you from Sydney?
Yeah, I'm originally from Cronulla.
Nice.
I go, yeah. So I went to South Pacific Private, which is on the North Shore in Curl, and I did a 21-day stint in there detoxing off this medication.
Yeah.
When I was in there, I was diagnosed with alcohol abuse disorder and drug abuse disorder.
Right.
And I remember going, please, like, I'm 24 years old. I don't like, I'm fine. And then when I left, I left that rehab and got on a bender 2 days later. Like, it was my celebration to go get a bag of Coke.
Yeah.
It wasn't until like maybe a year later that, the drugs felt different now that I wasn't on medication. I was abusing them so much. I was going on 3-4 day benders. I was having time off. I do not know how I maintained a job either.
Wow.
I overdosed. I've had that many close near-death experiences. And then I went to Keels Mountain. I went to a place called the Health Retreat.
Yep.
Which is a mental health and addiction recovery centre here in Queensland.
Yeah.
It saved my life, honestly. I did that program for a month and I've never kind of looked back.
Amazing.
I always felt like going back to what you said earlier about the addiction and recovery space being a little bit stale.
Yeah.
I felt like that too. And I felt like the reason why I kind of have started to create the Anxiety Bender and Fuck Stigmas is I wanted to create a space that there's not really any spaces for us to go to except for AA or NA. And for me, it didn't really help me that much. For me, that was my and I wanted to create something else so there was another option, It doesn't have to be just one thing, that I wanted there to be like two different things.
Yeah.
I had tried to go to these kind of things and they just weren't helping me. And I just wanted to create a space for everyone to feel like they could be connected, whether they were just suffering from mental health or suffering from addiction. I believe very much so that even though one of those is using a substance to mask the mental health issues going on.
Yeah.
Addiction and mental health are exactly the same thing.
Yeah. I was going to ask you that, like, when you went into the first place and they diagnosed you with, what do you call it, alcohol or drug abuse disorder. And then when you went to this second place, I'm not sure what sort of philosophy they take towards approaching it. But how did you find that whole process? Because I get really interested in talking to people and the feedback that we get, exactly what you're saying about AA and NA. Again, everybody not bagging it, just talking about it. That they didn't gel with that whole like disease concept, all that sort of stuff. Was that your experience or yeah?
So I am absolutely not bagging NA or AA, because I have a lot of friends who actually, the people who like had a bit of an intervention with me are people who have been to NA and AA and followed the 12-step program, and it saved their life.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I think that any way that people get sober, do it. You know? I just wanted to clarify that as well.
No, 100%.
But yeah, I think in that hospital space, these, like, when I got in there, I went in there for mental health. I was detoxing off a prescription medication.
Yeah.
And I sat down, and there's people in there who are ice addicts, heroin addicts, sex addicts, gambling addicts, you name it. And when I kind of first went in there and they're like, what's your poison? And I'm like, oh, I'm here detoxing off my prescription medication. Like, what about you? Like, what are you here for? One guy's like, oh, sex addiction. Another guy's like, heroin. I'm like, holy fuck, I don't belong here.
Yeah.
And I ran straight to a nurse and was like, save me. Like, I need to go home, get me, sign me out. Like, I'm leaving.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she's like, no, just wait a minute. Like, go to group and just see how you like it and just wait. And I was like, oh, okay. And it was in those groups that I actually realized that we were all the same.
Yeah.
Strip away that band-aid of addiction, strip away the substance, strip away whatever it is. We were all the same.
Yeah.
We were just, some of us were using different ways to cope.
Yeah.
I think the reason why, so the retreat that I went to after I left that hospital, like a year later,
yeah.
it was holistic based.
Yeah.
So it was more about the internal work of changing the brain and cognitive brain therapy, not so much like talk therapy as in, just talking about our problems. It was more release work. So it was more going in and releasing it in a holistic way, using tapping, doing hypnotherapy, journey work, all that kind of stuff, which has now inspired me and is why I've taken the route of, being a holistic coach, addiction recovery coach, that kind of thing. It's more, it aligned to my philosophy and my values more than, I suppose, just talk therapy.
100%.
I like to get shit done.
Yeah.
I was always wondering why not, because I've seen countless therapists,
Yeah.
I've been seeing a therapist since I was 14. Like I've done the talk. I talk all the fucking time. I don't shut up. I was like, why is nothing changing? It wasn't until I started, doing this release work energetically and subconsciously and all that kind of stuff that things actually started to change. Yeah. I knew, and I think this is why AA and NA didn't really work for me, is it wasn't the drugs and alcohol that was the problem.
Yeah.
It was my mental health and the traumas and the triggers and the stuff that I was masking that needed to be dealt with.
Yeah.
It wasn't the, the alcohol or the drugs as such.
Yeah.
It was me not dealing with my shit.
Do you know what's funny, right? Everybody that I talk to, again, that's why I kind of wanted to do this show, because everybody has such a different experience with it and wanted to just get everybody's different experience on the table. But no matter who I talk to and whatever sort of method they've gone through to get recovery or whatever that, or change, whatever that means to them, everybody says that it actually wasn't about the alcohol and drugs. It was about all this other stuff. It's really interesting. It's not. And I knew that from the very beginning. That's why I was like, I wasn't opposed to going to AA or NA, but I was like, I need to deal with my shit before I start just blaming the alcohol and blaming the drugs. Yeah. Because I knew that these things were exacerbating whatever was going on, like a lot. But I've been 2 years sober and I still have issues, like not issues, but I still have up and down days with my anxiety. I still have up and down days with my depression. I just know how to deal with it differently now. Yeah. Yeah. I know that I'm allowed to have bad days. I'm allowed to feel like shit. Yeah. I don't have to always have something, to make me feel good, if that makes sense. 100%. Very interesting. So if I can, and if you feel comfortable to, can you sort of explain some of those therapy processes that you went through at that health retreat? Because people are always really fascinated in because again, I find not everybody, but I find a majority of people have done a lot of the traditional sort of talk therapies, and if they feel like it doesn't work for them, so what were some of those things? Like, what do you actually do when you go through journey therapy or like the tapping, and how does it all work? Like, and how does it help you to release all that underlying stuff that, you know, you kind of said had been plaguing you?
Oh, it's incredible. And still to like, I love talking about this stuff. So of course,
Awesome.
I'm all ready for it. I'm actually really keen. Like me as a coach and life coach now, I do this with my clients, and it's really incredible watching, like seeing the difference immediately, like
Wow.
with tapping. So tapping is like meridian points of the face and body that you tap on, to release stored up energy. You work through triggers and traumas and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
It's incredible. You can also work on new belief systems and stuff like that as well.
Yeah.
And I have clients where I literally will sit opposite them and we're working on a particular trigger or traumatic event. And I literally watch their faces as we're going through the rounds, and they start to change. It's just incredible. So to be on the other side of that, I love this stuff and I know that it works. So yeah, basically at the retreat, like we went through, I did a lot of journey work. So journey work is almost like going into a deep meditative state.
Yeah.
You kind of are traveling back in time. It's being guided with a coach who is trained to do this. And, you know, it's cutting cords with emotional connections. My first thing that we cut the cord of when I was at the retreat was the grief with my nan.
Yeah.
It was literally like my second day in, and the coach was like, okay, so basically we're going to cut the cord, like we're dealing with grief, because I told her a bit of my story.
Yep.
And I was like, no way, like I'm not doing that. Like,
So that's what I was going to ask, right? Like, because don't get me wrong, like I'm down with you 100%, and I'm a believer in some of these things as well, and do them with people. But I find, for me too, initially I was like, excuse me, I'm not a hippy dippy freak. Like, this is fucking weird. Like, do you find a lot of people have that experience, or?
Oh, well, because I ended up working at the retreat. Like I ended up I did an internship there. So I was their night manager at night. So I have always been a bit fluid. So I kind of was already open-minded to this kind of stuff.
Got it.
However, yes, there are people who come and they're like, oh my God, what, like WTF? Like not all coaches do this kind of stuff. Like they have like 7 or 8 coaches. So not everyone does this stuff. But once you go into it open-minded and you experience the benefit of what actually comes, and accompanied with like actual science and, you know, learning neural pathways and cognitive brain therapy techniques, and learning to, you know, upgrade belief, like limiting beliefs and all that kind of stuff, which is the program itself. You know, it's a win-win situation. So it's not just hippy dippy stuff. It's kind of like you're learning about your brain and how it works and how to change your belief and stress and all this kind of stuff. But yes, it can be very confronting. Like if you never experienced a journey or done meditation or even had some sort of spiritual awakening, like, dude, what the hell? Like, I'm no energy healer, like, you know, but it works, and it's pretty incredible. You know.
Awesome. So, and sorry, no, I just thought it'd be good to ask you that and your experience of how you help people to work through it, because it's something that I find people say a lot. But sorry, I cut you off. I am interested to hear like that first experience that you had where you cut the cord of the grief with your nan, and the guys or the person said that to you and you're like, oh, no way, I don't want to go there.
Yeah, for sure. So I got in with I sat down with my coach, and she's like, okay, we're gonna cut the cord with your nan. And I was kind of like, no, like I'm not doing that. And she's like, trust me, like you like really need to
Yeah.
cut grief. And I was like, okay, like I'm here to trust the process, you know, like I'm going to trust the process. So weird. And it was full on, like full on.
Yeah.
Full meditative state. I knew exactly what was going on around me though. And I was crying like Niagara Falls, like there was just water coming out everywhere. And then she's like, you know, you're doing this like, you're almost like in a trance, I suppose. And she hands me, she says, grab some scissors or whatever you need to do to cut the cord in a meditative state. And I'm like, I can't do it. And she's like, no, it's fine. Like you're not cutting the cord from your nan, essentially. You're going to have a different relationship with her, but you're cutting the cord to grief. And I was like, okay. So I did. And I shit you not, even though I was like crying, I went from like crying to like feeling so free and like instantly. And I started laughing and I was like still in meditation, like my eyes are shut.
Yeah.
And I felt like this huge shift. And I was like, what? Like, I knew that my nan was okay and that she was there with me. And it's like, I had just completely accepted that she had passed away, but, you know, she was still there with me and that's okay. Like, you know, I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. I don't know how to explain what I experienced, but it was awesome. And, you know, after you do these kind of therapies, sometimes you purge for a couple of days. So you kind of feel a bit weird for a couple of days, especially something that big. You can sometimes get a little bit run down or feel a little bit sick. You get really tired. I get really hungry for some reason.
Yeah.
You just kind of ride with the wave, but I felt incredible. And I did something very similar with my attachment to drugs and alcohol.
Yeah.
I got hypnotized.
Yeah.
Which worked. I reckon I've been hypnotized for smoking cigarettes and that didn't work, but the alcohol, I don't know what we did or what happened, but it worked. And then I also did like an inner journey work on my attachment to the drugs and alcohol and how I viewed it. I did tapping around alcohol and drugs as well. So when those thoughts come up or when I think about alcohol, which I still do, like say for instance, I'm at a party and I have that fleeting thought of, oh, I'd love to have a beer right now.
Yeah.
Like my neural pathways have been trained so well through practice that I've done, because you can't just do these therapies and it's a once-off thing.
Yeah, it's not like magic.
No, it's not like bang, you're done. It's consistent work, and you know, I now know how to do that for myself. So it's like I utilize those tools.
Yeah.
And I was given tools to be able to support that. But one of the things that we did was when I went to go think, because Coronas were my thing. So if I thought about wanting to drink a Corona, it was like, okay, like you're going to think of dog shit, right?
Yeah.
And that in my brain, and I shit you not, like, oh. When I'm like at a party and I'm like, oh, I really feel like, you know.
Dog poo comes into your head.
Yeah, I'm like, no, like, it's like a thing, I don't know. And also the fact that I've like reiterated in my head every single time that is not my story. It's all your language. Like,
yeah.
Go to rehab. If you go to rehab or you do these therapies, it's the work afterwards that cements and solidifies our journey. So like if you are in recovery, it's all the wording. Like my wording as soon as I left that place was, I don't drink.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not having a break. I don't drink.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I don't do drugs. You know, and people are like, ask me, oh, are you ever going to drink again? I don't know. I don't drink.
Yeah.
You know.
So it's kind of like a bit of an identity shift that you had as well in that whole process, it sounds like. Well,
drugs and alcohol was my identity.
Yeah.
So was anxiety. It was me. And I think a big part of that, and the part the big part of that and a big reason why I struggled to get sober in the past is I was scared of losing that identity. And I know that sounds like, well, you know, you knew it was ruining your life. Why would you be scared to lose that identity? Subconsciously, it's all I knew. So even though I knew it was killing me, even though I knew it was destroying my whole life, I didn't know what I looked like without it.
Yeah.
And I think that's another reason why I always failed. The moment I accepted the fact that, okay, that is a big reason why this is not my identity anymore. I now need to take a leap of faith and create a new identity, be a completely new person. I even changed the way I dressed. I even changed the way I spoke.
Which is scary, right?
Yeah, 100%. But in a way I actually started to become someone that I always wanted to be.
Interesting. Yeah.
But I was always too scared to. It showed me that I can express myself in ways that I don't have to give a shit what Instagram's doing or what my friends say I should wear or what, you know, if someone doesn't like the way I do my hair or whatever. All of a sudden, giving up drugs and alcohol just allowed me to be this person that I always wanted to be.
Yeah.
Because I was now creating a new identity. I got to start again.
So interesting. It's fascinating. I find a lot of these things really fascinating because my whole thing is, right, like just a bit like what you were saying, like it's kind of like obviously what we've been doing with like the traditional approaches to this stuff. Like, yes, it works for some people, but overwhelmingly the report back is that it doesn't work for a lot, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, how do we get people better solutions? And yeah, we have to like be open and innovate with this stuff. And I was listening to you've probably heard it. I was listening to a fascinating podcast the other day that my mate put me onto, Eugene Swartz, and he's like a, you know, he's got all the tickets against his name as like a traditional sort of medical psychotherapist. I think he might even be like a psychiatrist or something. But yeah, he's gone into this whole realm of like, you know, doing this like trauma therapy that he's invented, that he's getting great results with. That when he talks about it, like you were saying, if you've had no experience with it, it sounds super fucking weird, right? Like he takes you down kind of a path and you talk to these different parts of yourself, these different personalities and all this shit. And you're like, and you're listening to it, you're going, that's fucking weird, right? But then if you talk to people that are trapped in those situations and are experiencing the impacts of, you know, those conditions or mental health issues or traumas, whatever you want to call it, they're like, yeah, it's like 100% like it connects with me, you know? So yeah, it's fascinating to hear all this stuff. Do you think like, because the hypnotherapy is like an interesting one, right? Like, you said that it didn't work for smoking, but it did, you know, it worked for the alcohol and drugs. Do you think that was because of like the emotional place that you were in terms of like you really were ready and open to like something to changing in your life? Do you think that had a difference of the influence of it working?
Yeah, 100%. Like I don't think when I got hypnotized for smoking, I necessarily really wanted to give that up straight away because it was my last little thing. And I've successfully given up smoking now.
Yeah.
But it was like, I don't think I was subconsciously very ready to do that. With drugs and alcohol, I was like, I am so over living like this.
Yeah.
I am done. Get it out of me.
Yeah.
So, however, in a way as well, I also feel that subconsciously the hypnotherapy would have done something because I've eventually given up smoking.
Yeah.
I think another really amazing point that I kind of want to bring back as well is, you know, around this whole like things not working and stuff like that for people in recovery. It's not a one size shoe fits all kind of thing. I think what we need to understand and what we can do as a collective is that not one thing is going to get you sober.
Yeah.
Not one thing is going to get you mentally healthy. It's filling your tool belt up with 100 different things.
Yeah.
So, in exploring different avenues, because even though, say, talk therapy or AA might not have worked straight away, it's done something. It's marked a thing in your subconscious. That's where you want to be. It's helped you more than probably what you realize. But going and adding other things into it, like building I always use the analogy of building your framework to your house. You're building your house really strong, and you need to keep adding to it, keep building and exploring different avenues, doing art therapy, doing hypnotherapy, doing EFT, which is emotional freedom technique, tapping, exploring and having fun.
Yeah.
Forget that just because we're going through something shit. I think the biggest therapy I ever did for myself was when I left rehab, was going and having fun.
Yeah.
Like filling up those, this is why I do wellness coaching as well. And that's something that I specialize in, is because the 8 or 9 aspects of your wellness wheel, however many you want to put on there, they're all intertwined. And if you don't start filling your cup up and having fun and doing the things you want to do, you're just going to stay stagnant, and you need to live. Like, if alcohol was the only thing making you feel like you were somewhat alive, ironically, then you need to now know and find out how to live.
Yeah.
Another little thing I did for anyone who is in that space of the early parts of their journey is I got a book and I literally wrote down every single thing I had always wanted to try, do, explore, like a bucket list, but even with hobbies, like anything. And I slowly over time tick off that list, and it helped.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the reasons why some of us drink is because we do get bored, or we don't know how to fill that void with something good for us,
100%. Very, very interesting. So just quickly, I wanted to ask you a bit more about, can you explain tapping? What is that, and how does it help? And, because I can just hear some of the listeners going, tapping, what the fuck is that?
So tapping is emotional freedom technique, so EFT. And basically you tap on the meridian points of your face and body. So I'll run them through with you. Basically you have a karate chop point.
Yeah.
You have the middle of, or the start of your eyebrows there, right on the bone.
Yeah.
The sides of the temples, under the eyes, under the nose, on the chin, on the collarbone, on that meaty part of your ribs there.
Yep.
And the top of the head. So what we do is basically you're tapping on those meridian points to release energy and stored up emotions, that kind of thing. We look at a traumatic event, a trigger or something like that. You close your eyes, you scale it from 1 to 10. And then whatever that is, say it's a 7, you tap a phrase to that. So if you have anxiety, you start tapping with a phrase. So it's, my anxiety is ruling my world right now. I release my anxiety. I'm letting go of my anxiety. This anxiety is not mine. And you keep going around.
Yeah.
And then once you do your round of tapping, you close your eyes, and I can assure you the number will go down.
Yeah.
And you tap to 0.
Yeah.
Like my coach used to say, you tap till you pass out, basically. And there's you can't go wrong with it, right? There's so many different techniques. Like, those meridian points are the same, but you can do whatever feels right. If your body feels guided to leave the head out, or leave, the under the arm, or whatever it is, you just go with it. There's plenty of amazing apps out there. There's also a page on Instagram called The Tapping Solution. They explain it really well. And I'm pretty sure they have an app. And you can get apps that give you scripts to go through if you have a certain thing that you're trying to work through.
So, and is the idea like that emotion sort of builds up in your body and then gets stored in those like points, and that by tapping them sort of releases the energy or the emotion from those points? Is that sort of the idea behind it?
Yes, I don't know. I'm not going to say I definitely can confirm if they get stored up in those exact points.
Yeah.
But it is about releasing the energy through, because it's stored in the body.
Got it.
I can come back to you with that though.
That's okay. That's okay.
I'll actually ask that question. I just know it gets stored in the body, but
Yeah.
I'll come back and tell you that.
No.
I know. Oh, sorry, I just lost my train of thought. With tapping as well, when I was trying to quit smoking and like that feeling of like wanting a cigarette, I actually would tap on that craving.
Yeah.
So again, with like drugs and alcohol, you can tap on the craving.
Yeah.
And release it that way. So it's a very powerful tool to learn and use. And it's something that when you learn, you've got it forever.
Yeah.
Like I learned how to do it at the retreat.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, wow, like this is incredible. I did it like basically daily when I left there.
Yeah.
And now it's something that I can pass on to people and be like, this is how you do this, like learn and stuff. And there's amazing courses you can do around it. And it's incredible. I'm actually waiting to do a course at the moment on it, but because of COVID, it's put a bit of a pause on that. But yeah, like it's just incredible.
I love it. And thanks for talking to me about kind of like your journey with healing a little bit, because it's something that I want to try and focus on with people a little bit more about what they actually did, to get clean and sober, or to change their life, to get more mentally healthy, more mentally well, more emotionally well, all that sort of stuff. Because I think, when you do things like this, sometimes you can just be like, yeah, I fucking used heaps of coke and smashed heaps of beers and like life was fucked, and tell the whole story. And then in the last 2 minutes, you're like, it's okay. And now I'm good. I went to this place and I'm good.
Absolutely not. It is like, oh my God. Yeah. Okay. If you watch videos on my Instagram, I show videos of me being completely cooked. The party girl, the bender girl, that's who I was. And in no way, shape or form did I just go to a place for a couple of weeks, leave, snap my fingers and come back rehabilitated and now living a good life. Absolutely fucking not. I am still doing the healing. I am still doing the recovery.
Yeah.
I was 2 years sober on the 22nd of August, right?
Congratulations.
Thank you. And it was maybe a week before I got to my 22nd of August, 2 years sobriety date. I was at a friend's party, and it was at that party that I realized that I actually started to feel like myself and not uncomfortable. So, my personality in general life is very vivacious and, outgoing. I am an introvert at times, but in social settings, I can be quite, happy. And that's what I used to be like with drugs and alcohol. When I removed drugs and alcohol, I found that I struggled to be that vivacious person.
Yeah.
I was more introverted, especially around people I didn't know. However, at this party, I was like singing and dancing and being silly and all this kind of stuff. And for the first time, like I've done that sober, but for the first time, it didn't feel like I was putting it on, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just was naturally free. And I started to, I reflected on that a couple of days later, and I was like, I think that's because I'm starting to now know this is who I am.
Yeah.
You're sober is a long time, but it's not really when you've been doing drugs and alcohol for 10, 15, 16 years. Like it's not a long time. Where 2 years, I'm like, okay, right. Now we're starting to make some traction. I know who I am. I'm comfortable with being who I am. I can speak my mind, speak my truth. And that's because I've done the fucking healing.
Yeah.
That still keeps going. I do it every day.
Yeah.
I do it every day. I have my self-care routine, my healing routine. I'm in the process of doing a full overhaul with that, like basically doing all the healing I did in the beginning. I'm now doing that again because I really want to take it to the next level. You know, I'm like, okay, I'm sober now, but where to next? So I'm going to do what I did, but ramp it up a little bit.
It almost sounds like, because one of the questions I wanted to ask you, which you've kind of explained there, is like, you know, because you mentioned before that you went to the retreat and that was kind of like a boot camp style thing, if you think about it in a fitness sense, but it's turned into like a lifestyle that you have to live and this whole journey that you've gone on. But I was going to ask you that, like, do you think, like, not in a bad way with a bad connotation to it, but do you feel like you've kind of got like addicted to like this personal growth, healing, self-development side of things? And do you think that people have to live like that to kind of maintain sobriety or change or anything like that?
I don't know if addicted is the right word. I think I'm enjoying the process of feeling really good.
Yeah.
Do I think that a self-care routine is essential for someone in recovery? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like, I cannot begin to stress enough. Once your foot goes off that pedal, and the reason why I stress this enough is at the beginning of the year, I almost relapsed because I took my foot off the pedal.
Yeah.
And because I was feeling really good. I'm like, I feel really good. Like, I don't need to do this, blah, 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 blah. But the month, like, you know, a couple of weeks go by, a month goes by, I'm not doing my routine. I'm not doing the healing. I'm not doing the growth work. And I started to get triggered by things really easily.
Yeah.
I didn't relapse because I knew how to bring myself back from that. And I reached out to people and I talked it through and I did, you know, some stuff.
Yeah.
That's why I said as well in the beginning, it's really important to make sure that your self-care routine is also having fun. Like, you don't have to be always delving deep into trauma work. Like, oh God,
fuck that.
Yes, in the beginning stages, it was full on. I was a lot of trauma work. But right now, no, I'm not. I just make sure that I, you know, do my meditation. I make sure that if something does trigger me and come up, that I'm working through that journaling. I make sure I check in with my therapist once a month, or once every 2 months if I need it. I make sure I continue it as a continual plan. So yeah, I suppose, like, I also feel like as well with my anxiety vendor page that I'm like, if I'm a young person and I can stay sober and I can do this and I can show people that it can be fun and, you know, all this kind of stuff, it's like, it gives me a bit of a responsibility to maintain that as well.
Yeah.
It keeps me accountable. And I love that. I've got that accountability because I didn't know anyone my age who was living a life sober and still going to festivals or going dancing and going having fun and, you know, being that person. I didn't know anyone like that. And I feel like I'm like, okay, well, the anxiety bender is now my platform and I want people to feel connected and I want them to know they can live a life that's full and fun.
Yeah.
So that also helps me keep sober.
Awesome. And I love that you're doing the fuck stigmas groups as well, because that's such a big thing that people want, is like an alternative. You know, they want to connect with people in the same journey with them. You're a similar journey, you know?
It's awesome because in those groups, we have people from all walks of life. You know, we've got people who are dealing with mental health, or people who have overcome their mental health journeys and they're life coaches now, or they're counselors. You know, there's people who are dealing with addiction. And it's amazing because we all come together and we start chatting. We have a good laugh as well. We always end with a laugh. Like, we never keep it deep and heavy. We always end up being funny at the end. But it's beautiful because there's all these people from different walks of life, different parts of their journey coming together, talking, sharing, and feeling connected. And that's all I ever wanted from this group. Like, I was like, that's all I want, that makes me so happy. And the more people who can come and join and benefit from that fills my cup up more than I can even ever explain.
I love it. So how does it work? How do people get involved in that group? Obviously they can check you out if they want to do some work with you on the Anxiety Bender page, I imagine, but how do they get involved in the groups? Like, is it held over the internet at the moment, or is it an in-person thing in the QLD?
Yeah. So no.
If you can get over the fucking border. No, I'm joking.
Exactly. If you can get through quarantine.
Yeah.
I actually had someone from California in there last night. I have someone dead. I've had people from the UK. So basically it's via Zoom. I usually host them weekly to fortnightly. I always post them on my page. So there will be a group that will come out. I'll just say black. It's usually black. It says fuck stigmas with the date and the time. I do change the date and time every week. So people can make it, especially people overseas. People are working, all that kind of stuff. So I like to spice it up a little bit. But basically what you do is when you see that, or if you are interested and you want to kind of be like, hey, when it comes out, send me a DM, just message me on Instagram. I keep your name down. And then as soon as I release them, I send you it. You tell me yes or no, and then I send you a link.
Awesome. Love it. I would highly recommend that people check that out. I'm going to do a few groups as well, actually, because
I'd love to have you.
Funny enough, I'm sort of looking to connect with some different people with that stuff again. But anyway, that's another story. So that'll be good. Mate, it was just awesome to have you on. And again, I really appreciated that we talked about like some of the healing stuff and your actual journey of like change. Because as I said before, like it can get a bit flat just talking about people's drug and alcohol story.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And like, look, if anyone is interested in reading more of my story, I speak very openly about traumas, how I've healed from them, those kind of, bigger moments in my life. It's all on my Anxiety Bender page. So there's my story laid out. There's no sugarcoating what I talk about on my page.
I love it, mate. I love it. So you can check that out. Is it The Anxiety Bender or Anxiety Bender? Yeah.
No, it's The Anxiety Bender.
Yeah. Very cool name with all the things she's doing and creating a great little community and space. So we absolutely love it. Thanks for coming on, mate.
You're so welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
No worries. Peace, everybody.